Hey, y'all. Tommy here at Storage Pug. Welcome to this episode of Gabfocus. We're talking about revitalizing your storage business. I've got two of the most awesome people that's going to drop some knowledge on us. But before I get to them, Melissa, how in the world are you?
I'm back.
Welcome. We missed you last month.
Yes, I hated missing. But I'm really glad to be here today. So it's good to be here on a Thursday.
Me too, and it's good in East Tennessee, y'all. Well, welcome to Gabfocus. If this is your first time here, welcome. We love having you. I see many names and faces of people who have shown up to pretty much all of them. Welcome back to y'all as well. This episode, we're talking about revitalizing your storage business. So we're going to talk to the audience about people who have just bought their first facility, and there's some things that have to get going. We're also going to talk to the people in the audience who've been in the industry for 20 plus years, and they just want to know, hey, what's a little extra juice that I can pour into my business in 2023 that's going to make me successful, not only for this year, but years to come. And I've got two of the best people to talk about it. I've got Adam Steckler. He's been in the storage business for a gazillion years through Manhattan Mini Storage. And of course, Manhattan Mini Storage got acquired by StorageMart, and now Adam serves as the president for StorageMart. Adam, how are you, my friend? Welcome to Gabfocus.
I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here too. Well, tell give the audience a little 30-second overview of how you got to your position here, and what your take on self-storage is over the next 5 years.
Yeah, so previously I ran Manhattan Mini Storage. I worked for that company, Edison Properties, for 20 years. And then about a year and a half ago, StorageMart acquired Manhattan Mini Storage for $3.3 billion at the time before this Life Storage deal. It was the largest transaction in self-storage industry. And now I'm working for StorageMart, which is owned by the Burnham family. It's run by Chris Burnham and Mike Burnham. Both are very well known in the industry. Mike's in the Storage Hall of Fame, and they have 300 locations, a little less than 200 in the US, 70 in Canada, 20 plus in the UK. And we think the future is bright for self-storage, right? I know people are a little down, the capital markets are a little unsettled, but we continue to smartly acquire new facilities little by little and continue to grow. And maybe things won't be as good. You kind of asked about the next 5 years. Maybe things won't be as good as they've been during the pandemic. I think the pandemic fixed perhaps some oversupply, but I think things are going to return to normal. But what does normal mean? I think normal still means good, solid, single-digit year-over-year growth, and that's what we're expecting over the next 3 to 5 years.
I love that. That's going to serve as a good baseline for the conversation we're about to have today. So Adam, welcome to Gabfocus stage, and I'm glad to have you and StorageMart represent today. And then our co-panelist, Drew Pearson, the one and only. Drew, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm great. So glad to be here. Humbled to be here with Adam too. I'm looking forward to learning with everyone else on this call today.
Well, so Drew, so I learned this right before the show started. So you've been in real estate for 10 plus years, but your first storage acquisition was January 2021.
That's right.
And we're up to 11. So like, if you wanted to do something, you can do it.
That's right.
I'm glad to have you here. We'll give the audience a little 30-second overview of who you are and what your take is over the next few years in self-storage.
Yeah, I think at a high level, I try to keep my life pretty simple. Focus on my faith, my family. We're expecting our 5th child here in a few months, and my business. And, I love real estate. Most of my portfolio is self-storage. And I think it's just a heck of a business for all the reasons we love it. Diversification, hedge against inflation, all these great things. What people, I think, fail to realize, what separates storage from a lot of other asset classes is the ability to raise rents. Our single tenant industrial leases are 10-year leases, 3% annual rent bumps. But 6-7% compounded annually in storage really makes a big difference over a 5, 10, 15-year hold. And so it's been a good business to us so far. I feel very fortunate to be here. And man, we're going to try to buy and convert as much self-storage as we can for as long as we can.
Let's keep going. Well, y'all, Drew, Adam, I'm excited to have you guys here. And Melissa and I are going to ask all the questions. But Gabfocus brought to you by our lovely teams at StoragePug and Affordable Storage Guys Management. Coincidentally, we're all in East Tennessee. I'm in Knoxville, and Melissa's right outside of Chattanooga. So excited to host another show of Gabfocus. And if this is your first time here, this is what you can expect. It's a 60-minute Q&A. We get to ask the questions and they get to answer them. But you can also submit live questions during the show. So there's a Q&A button right on your Zoom screen somewhere. That's a great place to be putting your questions. But today's agenda, we'll try to stick to this. Number one is evaluating your business. 2, operations and technology. We're talking about team and culture, which I'm really excited about that particular topic. Talking about the facility itself, right? And then, of course, live Q&A and the question of the week. So we're going to dive in. And I think something that I'm excited about in this particular episode, especially with Adam and Drew, is like we get to dig a little deep. We've got so much experience and so much learning as we go experience. And I think we can really dig deep into what these guys have to say. So, Melissa, do you want to kick us off with the first question?
Yes. All right. Evaluating your business. When you are evaluating business or a particular facility, what are the major areas that you're looking at?
You want me to jump in? I'll
Yes,
jump in
jump
first.
in.
Look,
Yeah,
we're
go
like,
for it.
right, we're a much larger organization, so we're a little more structured about it. And some of the structure comes from, so John Dario was my old boss at Edison Properties. He's still the CEO there, and he wrote a book called The Retail Management Formula. And I know, like, you hear that name and you just start falling asleep. You're like, oh my God, this must be terrible. And but I would read it. It's a series of books. They're not that long. There's like 4. I think there's 4 books in the series, and it teaches you how to look at a facility. So we use what's basically called like a pyramid structure. So you start with, right, you walk up to, and this can be different for every organization. This doesn't have to be the same structure. You know, you can just pick what works for your organization, or your pyramid could be a lot smaller, or it could have many more layers. But it starts with the basics, right? When you walk up, is it clean? How does it look? Has it been swept? Is there garbage laying around, right? A lot of times those are the basics. Sometimes people walk into the bathrooms. What do the bathrooms look like? Sometimes that's an indication of what you're going to find in the rest of the facility. And then you work your way up that pyramid. The next level, we like to say, is operational controls. Is, right, if you find that if you have cash that's unsecured, a lockbox that isn't locked, is the safe open? And it's crazy. We find those things from time to time, and we stop right there, right? You stop at that level of the pyramid and you say, okay, I'm not going any further because we have to work on these basic levels. And then you work your way up the pyramid more towards building and developing your team. And then maybe at the very top of the pyramid, you get to what we call business development, where you're actually canvassing the neighborhood, right? If your facility is running so well that you have time to go out in the neighborhood and see what else is going on, maybe that's the pinnacle, the top. But so we try and think of it as layers, and you build up from the basic to the more complex, and that's how we approach it.
I love that. I put the link to the book in the comment section there. So Drew, same question to you. Like, what's your take on when you're evaluating the business overall or a particular facility?
Is this a business to purchase or one that we currently already own and operate?
Let's do both. Let's answer both.
Okay. Well, I'll start off on the looking to purchase. The first 3 questions we ask are kind of our investment thesis is we want to purchase real estate at or below replacement cost. So if we built a store right next door, we want to be a discount to that. It's been difficult lately, but we've been able to do that. We want to be leasing to tenants at or below market rent. I don't want to buy any real estate that's leased to people over market. So if they leave, we have a hard time replacing that rent. And then we want to be in stable or growing markets. A lot of our markets are smaller, but we just don't want to be in, like a highly cyclical market like oil and gas, where if gas goes down, it's a big problem. But on facilities that we own, we're working really hard to get our processes going here on, what does a site audit look like? Clean doors, clean floors, no cracked grass on the ground. We want to kind of monitor the phone calls so that we can make sure that we're asking the customers the right questions. And that's kind of how we think about that.
That's really cool. And I love how both you guys talked about the foundation, right? The doors and the floors, and is the parking lot swept, right? And is the bathroom in good order, right? So like the idea of building it from the ground up or the foundation up just totally makes sense. So beyond those things, how do you know if one of your facilities is like mismanaged, or what are your triggers on how to know, like, hey, like the bathroom's dirty? That's probably one indicator, but what are some of the other indicators that would tell me as an operator, you know what, this is mismanagement all over it?
You're welcome to go first here. I don't want to, dominate the whole
Okay.
time.
All right.
We have a lot of KPIs, right? We're a data driven organization. So we're taking a lot of data, bringing it back to a data warehouse, right? We're blessed to have this large organization. So we take all this data, and again, you don't have to do this at the same scale, but we bring, all this data back. So we'll look at how many move-ins are happening, how many move-outs are happening, right? Even basic things. Are we upgrading the way we want to upgrade? How many discounts are we giving out? Are we actually offering the street rate, or people moving in at discounted rates, or they upgraded to a better unit? And what we do is we compare them to their peers. What's happening at the other stores? Again, we're lucky enough to have bigger portfolios. When you have multiple stores in the same metro area, you can start comparing and looking for the anomalies. Why is this store closing reservations at 75%, but this other store is only at 30%? Let's dig into it. Is it a staffing issue? Is it a training issue? Maybe it has nothing to do with the facility. Maybe we're doing something completely wrong on Google. Maybe our Google listing isn't right. We've had Google listings we found, right? So it's this digging into it to then research what is the issue. But we believe it's a data-driven approach. And right, when you're trying to look at 300 locations, it's hard to individually talk to everybody. So we're looking for signals in the data that say, hey, there's a problem here. Let's dig into it and find out what's really going on.
I love the stat of the reservations conversions, right? I audited, I don't know, audit's a strong word, but I reviewed this portfolio's data. They had 60 locations, I think, and we discovered that only 27 across the entire portfolio, only 27% of their reservations were being converted to a lease, which is like that was shockingly low, right? We were expecting to see like 50 to 60% conversion on reservations, but we saw 27, right? And overall, generally, this is a well operating machine, right? And so it's like, well, we're operating well, but could we operate better? And the answer was absolutely yes. So I love that particular data point. Drew, same thing to you. I know, it's over the last 25 fast growing months. What are some, I know you've definitely made some changes. What were some of the things that triggered you as you're like, man, this is totally wrong, as you took on a facility?
Oh man, we could talk for days on that. I will say first, the key metrics are so important. If you're just monitoring occupancy, or maybe your, economic collected rent, there's more to look at there. In addition to those metrics, we're looking at maybe unavailable units. Maybe there's some units that we can't rent. Why is that? How do we bring those back online? We are working really hard to dial in we call it lead to lease conversion rate, which I think is what we're talking about. That's kind of the tip of the sword. If you can convert more of those leads, you're going to have a higher occupancy and a higher rent, But man, as far as mistakes we've made, if we want to talk about that, we tried the whole just all remote management, and that was a challenge for us. I know there's people who have done it successfully. You're just not talking to one of them. And so we have a lot of almost all of our stores have on-site managers there. And what we found is just having someone accountable, kind of the buck stops with me for those clean doors, clean floors, collected rent. It's just been much more successful and less problems, which allows us to grow. If we're constantly putting out fires, we can't get to where we hope to be one day.
No, that's a good point. And remote management is one of those things where it's touted as like, oh, this is the greatest thing in self-storage now, and everybody needs to go remote. And it just frankly does not work for everybody. And it doesn't work in every situation. So
no.
Yeah.
I mean, you need essentially, I think you need to hire a maintenance man at $45,000 a year and give him a job every day. But having these part-time 1099s who are jack of all trades and not accountable, and it's a really bad idea.
It's difficult in some areas for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I
my
appreciate
experience.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
So Adam, you spoke to data a few minutes ago. Like you really mentioned data over and over again. What kinds of reports or data specifically are you looking for when you're evaluating your business?
So, okay, everything flows into like a scorecard. So every facility has like this initial top level view. How's their revenue? How are their expenses year over year? They can customize the date range, right? So, and we push that data and occupancy. I know it's not everything, but a lot of the it's real basic data. And we just share that with the manager. So it starts with sharing it with the people that are at the facility so they understand how they're performing and what's expected of them and making them part of the solution, right? If you just tell them what to do all the time, you're not going to have a good solution. They're more important. They're the customer facing part of the business. So we share everything that's accessible that they can go into directly themselves from the counter at the location and see everything that the management team sees. And then like I said, they're looking at move-ins, move-outs, bookings. They literally have like this unlimited list of items. How's their rent performing? And there's things that are important to them, like, am I upgrading? We have a value pricing program. We have a value coverage, which is really a tenant protection plan. How many of those am I selling? Which packages am I selling? Right? There's always something for them to work on and get better. And then we tie their bonus, their commission is tied to the KPIs that we think are most important. And we change it around, just like we talked before. It's okay to make mistakes, try different things, do different things. And the employees will tell you, they'll be like, hey, you made this change to the process. And that's, we don't like that. We do like that. We've been experimenting with using the call center in different ways. So our call center, we don't call it a call center, we call it a sales resource center. So we've been having them follow up on all leads. We used to have that done at the location, but we found, right, somebody at the counter might do it 30 to 50 times a month. They're selling storage, but somebody who's on the phone all day is doing it 500 times a month, maybe more. And they were just better at it. They were better at closing, explaining the product. They're always available, right? They're always at their seat. And we thought at first, we were like, no, you can't do it in the call center. You have to do it at the location. And right, the centralization has really been a big benefit for us. So again, just right, it's looking at, so we have a BI team and we'll come up with new reports all the time. If we have a feeling that, hey, let's take a look at the call center, how that relates, or some aspect or something on the website. We made a change on the website, or we're doing something different at the location. Right, we do something called RINs, rent it nows, which is where somebody rents it and they pay on the website, or rent it now zeros, rhinos, we call them. They can rent it now and they don't pay anything. And then we track those through their life and see how they perform. So again, it's like doing lots of tests, trying different things, and then look at the data. A lot of things don't work, but it's okay to try new things, look at the data, and we let the data guide us. We try to avoid, managers at the location will tell you, oh, that was a terrible idea, or customers complained when you did that big rate increase. And it's true, they're dealing with those customers, but we try and go back. And a lot of times you listen to your manager say, oh, that was a terrible rate increase going to 15% last month. But when you look at the data, you find, well, that was only 2 people out of hundreds of people that got rate increases. And so you try to separate some of the emotion from your staff and look at the data. And then you explain to your staff what you're seeing in the data so that they're more mentally prepared. They still have to deal with that customer and try and make that situation as good as it can be, but at least they understand the business motivation behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. A lot of the managers, I think they are wrapped up in the emotion of the customers and they can't really see past that. But being able to share that data with them to show them that, hey, those 2 or 3 people that complained last week and we really thought, they were going to move out, or chances are even the ones that complained stayed and continued to pay their rate increase, and it's all good. And when they can couple those 2 things together, then the next time they get that complaint call, it's much easier for them to be able to have the confidence to address their complaint without that fear of like, oh my gosh, they're going to move out, and that's going to reflect poorly on me.
No, really. And I love that because I think like the right managers, which we'll get to building a team in a bit, but I think the right managers will be receptive to that, right? And be excited that, hey, I now have access to all this data and kind of the reasoning and the business
Mhm.
logic behind why we're making decisions, right? Which I think is killer. So Drew, I mean, same question to you. What are some of the reports or what are some of the data and or KPIs that you're tracking? And like let's dig into it a little further. Like if you're using software, how are you running those reports and how often you're running those reports?
Yep. Man, Adam, it's just so inspiring to hear as much as y'all are testing and improving. I heard a great interview with the CEO, and it's, man, you guys just have such a behemoth company over there. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. But we're not perfect either. Just like you say, it's
Yeah.
you'll find the mental attitude to try different things. And if it doesn't work, right, nothing's forever. You can always make a change. You can always recover from it. You can change your policy. But if you don't try it, you'll never know if it was a good idea, was not a good idea. Don't be afraid to experiment. That's, I think, one of the takeaways
Yeah.
people should have.
StorageMart certainly has a humility to it. It seems from the outside, which is really neat. But Tommy, back to your question, we run reports on Sitelink. That's our kind of our back end software. And so we have a weekly meeting with our leadership team, a 90-minute meeting where we discuss our KPIs, which is kind of move in, move outs, units that are offline, occupancy, collected rent. And then we kind of have some say, on the sale and acquisition business development side, we kind of have some other metrics there to grow the business. But I don't think it's anything too wild and crazy. Like I said, we're working on our lead to conversion ratio and really trying to improve that.
Is there a particular report or set of reports in SiteLink that just like, man, we like when you're having these 90-minute meetings that you guys are reviewing? Because there's a lot of people in the audience who use SiteLink.
Yeah, we just use a consolidated management report.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy. And I guess I forgot, it seems like auto pay customers are better customers in general. And so we're really trying to increase our auto pay percentage. We're at like 70% portfolio wide and trying to drive that higher. So those are kind of some of the things we're looking at.
Awesome.
I'll add on to Drew's like 90-minute meeting and just which I think is great. It's not any different at a bigger company. Every Monday morning, we sort of get all the department heads together and we sort of like everyone just talks about for like 1 minute what's sort of the headlines going on in their area. And then every Friday morning we scheduled for 90 minutes. It probably takes us closer to 2 hours. It always runs a little long, but we do what's called a production meeting, and we just literally talk through each location, each area of the country, each market that we're in, how we're doing, what we see there, what needs to happen there. So just having the doors of communication open, and whether it's a small company or big company, just getting together on a regular basis and discussing what's going on with your key people will make your business better, no doubt.
That's awesome. I'll throw Adam at StorageMart, what's the kind of the back end software that you guys use to run the facilities?
Yeah, so we're going through a big change. So for many years, 15 years, we've used a custom CRM system that we built ourselves, of our own property management system. And at this point, it's like 6 different programs that are all connected together, and it's pretty complicated to use. And it's just gotten dated over time, and technology has really changed. And what's more important is that we've signed a big contract with Storable. We're actually implementing the Store Edge version of the product. We're customizing it quite a bit, actually, to include some revenue management and some other operational processes that we think make StorageMart, little differentiators that we're including in the software. But basically, we're beta testing that now, and it's expected to roll that out to all 300 locations by the end of the year. So we didn't go with the Sitelink. We wanted the Store Edge product. But we think either way, it would be a big improvement to the business from what we're doing today.
Wow.
That's going to be quite an undertaking.
300 locations.
Yeah. And
yeah.
even in the beta test, right? I mean, we could probably do a whole podcast on this, but right, it's going to be a learning curve. Look, I know people, William Warren Group, StoreQuest, they operate on a StoreQuest brand. They implemented storable at all. They have they have a couple hundred locations, and they did it all in 3 months. So it is possible to use it off the shelf and implement it. So we're looking at them as a role model. But yeah, I imagine there'll be a few bumps in the road.
So I have to ask, what
yeah.
is the plan for this? Is it like everybody all at once? We're just gonna.
No, there's no way you can do it that way. So we're beta testing it at one store right now, just kind of like learning the kinks, and then we'll roll it out. Our headquarters is in Columbia, Missouri. It's halfway between Kansas City and St. Louis. That's where the Burnham family grew up and where they run their headquarters now. We have about 100 office employees there and about another 50 people in a call center there. So that's sort of home base. So we'll test it out in some of the local markets there. We have 40 plus stores in Kansas City. I imagine that's where we'll target first. And then we'll slowly roll it out.
In sections at a time.
Yeah, in sections at
Yeah.
a time. And
Yeah.
sort of, like I said, we sort of divide the country into like 4 or 5 major sections, and we'll kind of
wow.
tackle city by city geographic area at a time. It's a big undertaking, no doubt.
I do not envy you. No, that's a huge undertaking. And I've changed software several times.
Yeah,
And
you
it's-
have.
Yeah.
And we kind of think like 2023 is a good year, right? But the capital markets kind of went crazy. We're like, well, maybe we'll do less acquisitions this year. And, you know, some of the occupancy coming down from the pandemic, we said, let's make 2023 a good year to just focus on operations and clean up some things that we've sort of ignored as we've been busy growing. Sometimes you need to go back and look at your day-to-day operations. And that's what led us to, hey, we really need a better property management system, which is what led us to the storable upgrade.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, no, the running 6 different softwares and making them all talk together, right, is that gets old after a while, and it gets hard at scale. So I get that. One other report that I want to throw out here, and actually there's a great segue into operations and technology. There's a really great report called Lead Funnel, and most of your softwares will have this. Basically, it's your lead summary, your lead funnel report, and it'll show you all of your leads, where they came from, and then it'll show you where they are in the process. So did they actually convert to a rental, or are they still in reservation mode, or did they expire, or did they cancel? So that's a really great report to actually see, okay, we generated 120 leads in the time period, and 40 of them are now customers, and that leaves 80 that, then now you can start diagnosing, like, did we actually call those 80 people? Is there a better way to handle these leads? Should we push for rentals, right? So the lead funnel report's another good one to diagnose once you get to that level. So on this idea of operation technology, I think we've touched on it a lot. It looks like StorageMart migrating from kind of custom in-house CRM to eventually later on storable. Drew, I know, between you and I, y'all actually migrated from StorageMart to Sitelink. But like, let's talk about operations a little bit. Like, what's the take, right? Like, how do you guys approach operations at your facilities? I think, Drew, you've said it. The remote thing you tried and it didn't work for you guys. But, what does operations look like at the different first stop locations?
Yeah, I don't think it's much different than many other facilities. You walk in, you're greeted by a manager. We hope that it's, clean, safe, and secure. That's what we're trying to provide for our customers. On the hiring side, we do kind of look for, we use a company called Culture Index. And so we're trying to dial in what are the personality traits of great managers. There's a customer service side. There's a little bit of kind of a little bit of a handyman side to diagnose some problems, a little bit of a craftsman type mentality. So on the hiring side, we're looking for that to have a good experience for our customers.
Adam, I mean, same question to you. Like, if you walk into a StorageMart, whether it's in Kansas City or Manhattan, is it the kind of same experience across the board, or do you guys have different flavors?
Yeah, we're always looking for consistency, right? And that's hard, especially when you're in multiple countries and spread across, literally coast to coast. So we take not the field level staff, but the regional manager. So a regional manager may have between 8 and 12 stores, and we bring everybody to the headquarters for a whole week. And they meet with every department. They do this every year. We've done it different formats, different years, right? So it gets back to, not sure what the perfect solution is, but whether we brought everybody all at one time back to the home office, but we've been doing what's called Regional Manager Academy. They come to the home office, they meet with all the different departments, and they spend time with the senior management team, with Chris Burnham, who's the CEO, with the Sarah Little runs our marketing department, right? They're just they're spending significant quality time talking about what our goals are, what we're trying to achieve, what we're doing in those departments, and it lets them bring back the message to the locations. And then we really rely a lot on our operations team is critical. So Kathy Winkleman runs our national operations, our global operations. There's 5 RDOs, what we call regional directors of operations, and all the RMs. I don't know how many there are now. We keep growing, 30 to 40, maybe 35 RMs that report to those 5 RDOs. And we really rely a lot, like Kathy and her team, the 5 RDOs, they just spend a lot of time, they meet every week. They go through establishing the criteria. We're all using the same reporting. So that's how we drive consistency. It really happens. It only happens through a lot of communication. You can't just let everyone go, right? Because when you come back, 3-6 months later, you'll find a lot of crazy things. So it just involves a lot of communication and asking, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is that the right way? Now, we also have a training department. This helps a lot also. So we have 3 or 4 people in a training department who are constantly pushing out procedures, right? So all the procedures have the same look, the same format, the same level of detail. They're not being done by different people. They put together classes, put on our learning management system. Again, it's being done at scale. So, we're lucky to have these tools, and that's what leads to our consistency in operations. We're really nothing but an operation shop. A lot of people are real estate and they're trying to acquire more facilities, but we believe in operations. We think it's the core of everything. We'll buy anything. We want to hold it forever. And if it's a mess, we love it when it's a mess because we know we can fix it and run it better. That's where all the opportunity comes from, running it better, looking at the reports, getting the right people in there, making it run like all the other StorageMart stores. So that's, anyway, that's a little insight to how we look at it.
I love that you love the messes.
Yeah. And you're actually just talking about our very next question on here of like, what drives that operational strategy that you guys have, from like your positioning in the market, your policies, your best practices, your playbooks. And a side question to that, like, did you inherit any of those operational tools or have you stolen them from different places? Like where did that all come from?
Yeah, look, it's grown over a long time. I mean, StorageMart has a long history. In the 70s, they started the company, right? 1-2 stores, right? They well ahead of the curve. They grew to a couple hundred stores. Public Storage did a hostile takeover of them in the 90s. And then they regrew the business from scratch again. And so it's right. So we're out there trying to acquire, but we're trying to be smart. A lot of people are more aggressive acquiring. We're really picky. Like most people, we literally look at hundreds of deals a month, right? So there is an acquisitions group, and we are trying to acquire and grow the company. But that happens pretty slowly, and it's mostly 1s and 2s. We would love a big portfolio like anyone else, but they do come along. Like every 10 years, StorageMart seems to find one of these large events, right? 10 years ago, we acquired a large portfolio in Canada. That's really how we got our presence up there. The Manhattan Mini Storage obviously was a huge portfolio a few years ago. So every now and then we tend to be opportunistic, right? We align things ahead of time, plan your capital, think about your finances, but don't act on it in that moment. Wait for the perfect opportunity, and you may have to wait years for it. And that's how we do acquire. And then the rest, like I said, is just a value add operation shop. We believe by great operations, everything's about squeezing out 5, 6, 7% more revenue. And that little bit is what separates us from a lot of other people. That's the difference perhaps between a deal being, okay, or just getting by, and being great. So, right, we're always looking at what is the value coverage, tenant protection plan, or even if you don't want to do tenant protection, no problem. Get yourself an insurance product and share, and find a way to share the revenue. There's a lot of companies out there that do that nowadays. Look at your, can you upgrade in some way? Right, we have a really sophisticated program. We rank every unit. If you have a 500 units, we rank every unit 1 to 500. We have a sophisticated repricing. You know, if you sell one unit, it instantly makes the next unit the best unit. It's more than just good, better, best. But, you know, even if you just had good, better, best at your facility, that would be something better than perhaps what you're doing today. Look for those opportunities. And that's what we do. We're looking to maximize every line of that revenue. Because, right, we've seen a lot of people that are just pretty complacent about it, but every little bit, right, when if you're selling your facility, even at a 6 cap or 7 cap, you know, every little bit of value that you can add just grows your value by, you know, 10 or 15 times when you're looking to sell one day. And it's important to give your company that value. So that's what we're always looking for, even though we never sell, but we're just trying to we're trying to maximize the value of the organization.
Wow. Drew, I mean, I think for you, like, question I have is like, you know, as you're trying to grow and learn from, you know, what Adam's doing at his crew, is like, how can you tell what's working and what's not working? Like, you know, for example, you mentioned that you tried the remote thing and it didn't work. What were some of the clues that, you know, that was the writing on the wall that wasn't working for you? And then how do you know on the flip side, how do you know when things are working very smoothly?
Yeah. You know, I think business is a lot simpler than you think it is. It's pretty easy. Like when you're up in the middle of the night thinking about a problem or an employee, it's a mistake. You know, you hate to say let your gut follow it, but everybody's a lot more intuitive than they give themselves credit for. I think how do we add value? You know, we kind of came up with this idea of lights, camera, paint, action. And that's really our business plan. You know, we want to come in with all new LED lights, all new paint with our brand colors, fire engine red doors, gray body walls, all new security cameras, and then actions, our software management. You know, half the facilities we purchased didn't even take credit cards, didn't have websites, as crazy as that sounds. So we would kind of just pluck the low-lying fruit and continue to experiment. And really I think the next great low-lying fruit to pick is this active rent management system. You know, we're kind of adjusting prices every other week or monthly, but there's a couple of really great companies out there that use AI and machine learning that at the small end of scale, which we're just now getting to the point where this starts to make sense, we can have a lot of the tools like REITs have for our price management. And to Adam's point, you know, that extra 3, 4, 5, 6% you can squeeze out above, it really adds up over time.
Yeah. So like, how do you go about, how have you been going about rate and revenue management? And, you know, like you said, you're now getting to the cusp where some of those extra fancy tools make sense, but up until this point, how have you guys been doing it?
Yeah, just the old school way, pen and paper, kind of monitoring your competition. We're raising rates during the spring and lowering or keeping flat. You know, I got into it at a good time in the business, which was not typical, but so that's kind of covered up some mistakes. But as we grow, one of our core values is 1% better every day. And what's the next thing that we can do? We have the greatest we have the greatest website developers on our team in StoragePug. So we've kind of got that box checked. And I think rent management is another area we need to be in sooner than later.
Awesome. Okay, so what kind of technology, or is there a technology that you guys say this is so important, this is implemented at every single facility across the board?
Well,
Go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead, Drew. Go.
I think the next thing that we need to do is just rent management. You know, actually, I listened to Mike Burnham on a podcast once, and I was like, man, we got to do this. You know, now what the hell's going on here? So I think that's the next big step. And I really think that having a great website presence is really important as we just look at kind of the millennials and Gen Z and how I think they're going to continue to find storage. A clean, easy to use interface and website is just going to be more and more important.
Yeah, I agree with all of that 100%. Right. The revenue management we really do is a back office process, looking at rates and really pushing it. And our data shows people do not leave because of rate increases. Yes, a small percentage do leave. Like we look at, for a lot of reasons, there's groups of people we don't give rate increases to, and we'll look at 90 days after. So 90 days later, people that got rate increases versus people that don't, the survivability, if you got rate increases, is 73%. The survivability, if you did not get a rate increase, is 77%. So it's only a 4% difference. Most people are leaving you not because of the rate increase. And so we've continued to sort of push the limits on how high you can go. I do think there is a point when you can't go that far. And we've had the benefit of high occupancies, which has let us be aggressive and test a little bit. But those back office systems are, critical to the growth, and, setting your new customer pricing and ECRIs, existing customer rate increases, are key to growing your revenue. And there's companies out there, like we work with a company called Veritech, Warren Lieberman. He's very good. There are others in the industry as well. You should talk to all of them and just see if they're the right fit for you or how they can grow your revenue. And maybe not today, maybe it's something a year or two down the line, and they're working, all these vendors are starting to work more and integrate in with the property management software, which I think is helpful. As far as like at the location, it's not a lot at the location. Yes, we like, gate technology and cameras and those things. So we try and keep it simple. The more locations you have, we try and keep it consistent. The more variety of equipment, the harder it is to troubleshoot and figure out the vendor. And we have a mix of equipment. We've changed ourselves over time. And then, like Drew said, I couldn't agree more on the website. I think even though we have a great website, we think it loads very fast, but it can be better. We've just hired an eCommerce director who from other industries, other retail. She's already identified a million things that could be improved. So I think we're going to embark on rebuilding the website. And I think that's something that constantly changes, right? The technology is changing. People are on their phones even more. And right? It's reducing friction from the time they're using their phone to when they check in at the location. And how do you, look at that whole business process and make that as easy as possible for the customer? They don't want to be, we used to have chairs in the lobby, and they don't want to be in your lobby. They want to get in, rent the unit, and get out. And that's what we're really focused on now.
I love that, man. I think cutting out all the friction, or as much of the friction as you can. Like you said, they don't want to be there longer. No one wants to rent a storage unit for fun. No. Right. And the faster they can get in and get out, whether it's in person or online on their phone. And you mentioned technology is changing. I think technology changing, I think it's also like big brands are changing, right? Big brands like Apple, Amazon, Airbnb, they have massive e-commerce teams who are experimenting all the time. And those just happen to be the tools, the places that we shop all the time. Right. And so as those technologies change and impact these big companies, it trickles down to self-storage operators who could take advantage of that by offering more seamless and frictionless experiences. So I love that even a big brand like y'all, you're not just resting and sitting on your laurels and collecting checks. You're reinvesting in like, hey, let's build a better website, even though ours is pretty awesome. I love it. And hiring a director of e-commerce is also very cool. I don't know that I've met a director of e-commerce in the self-storage space. So congrats.
Thanks.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's important not to stay still. It's easy to get complacent, right? Things have been good, even during the pandemic, right? With high occupancies, we've seen a lot of people just be like, this is good enough. And we say, keep pushing, because it won't always be this is easy. It's going to get harder. A lot of people forget, like even during the financial crisis, 2008, rents went down in a lot of markets, a lot of places. We certainly struggled in Manhattan at the time. And if you're carrying debt on your properties, it can be a little nervous. And now's the time to just keep improving, keep trying things. And, even when I go to all the national shows, there's hundreds of people that go around and talk to. And if you're not going to any of the state shows or the big shows, either the ISS or the SSA shows, I would encourage people to go. There's just so many people to meet and learn from there.
That's where we met Drew at the
right.
Louisiana show. It was at Baton Rouge.
That's right.
A couple years ago, right as Drew was entering the industry. He was already hitting the the conference circuits, and I love that. So I think Melissa, there's going to be a whole nother Gabfocus session on online rentals and e-commerce, and I think we're gonna have to bring the director of e-commerce into this conversation.
Exactly.
That's cool and exciting to me. So we only have 15 minutes left.
Oh
So
my gosh,
I
I hadn't
know.
even looked at my clock.
Yeah, I've been anxiously waiting to get to team and culture, right? Because I think
Yeah.
this is huge, and it's like Drew's finding, like, hey, maybe the remote management stuff is great for some operators, but not great for all operators. And there are tons of managers in our audience who are trying to figure out where they stand in our industry, right? So Drew, I'll ask you first, since you've done a lot of hiring lately and promoting. Like, to you, what makes a really good, really awesome manager at a self-storage facility?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we have to kind of look at the question in a different way, which is from a company perspective, have you done the work to identify a vision? What's our 10-year vision? Where are we going? What are our core values? What's our mission? What are we really doing here? And if you can clearly articulate those things, your probabilities of finding a manager, a team player, are just that much higher. If we're looking just for a warm body to pick up the phone and get a paycheck, we're not going to be as great as we want to be and can be. And so for us, our vision is to be a world-class operator in small southern markets. That's what we want to be, one of the best in small southern towns. Our mission is to honor God, treat our team members with respect, and serve our customers. And if we can do that following our 3 core values, we're going to be successful over the long run. And so I think that's where it really all starts. And then just setting your expectations where it's okay if you hire somebody and they're not a right fit, they're not a bad person. They just may not be the right person for this seat on the bus. When at all possible, we try to give them letters of recommendation or help them find a job somewhere else. We're not kicking you to the curb. And so that's what we've tried to do. And that's so much of this is about mindset. We're not failing as a leadership team. We just need to get 1% better. We need to adapt, try new strategies. And really that growth mindset in all business and in life, I think, is just paramount.
That's fantastic.
That's so cool.
Love everything you just said.
Yes.
Yeah. And I even appreciate like how you go that extra mile to make sure that even if the person's not the right fit for your company, you want to make sure that they find the fit wherever that happens to be, even if it's somewhere else. And that's people first. And that's great. I love it.
That is so cool, right?
Well, thank you.
It's like, in order to like have a good manager, it's like you almost have to be a business that deserves a good manager, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Dude,
absolutely.
That's killer. I mean, Adam, I guess same question to you. Like, how do you guys go about evaluating or determining, who your exceptional managers are? And then you guys have multiple ranks all the way up to the top. So, like, kind of talk us through that process for anyone who's aspiring to build a 100 location portfolio.
Yeah, well, it's still in many ways a family, right? It's family-owned business, family-run business. Like I said, Mike and Chris own and run the business, but their children are involved and they all have key leadership positions. And that culture of a family business really trickles down, and a lot of employees stay with us a long time. I think we talked about some of this in the pre-show, but we really try to create engagement with our employees, right? So we look for people with hospitality, ideally sales experience. We view it as a sales job, but we're just looking for friendly people, good communicators, good personalities. And then we know that we can teach them the skills for self-storage. We have a learning management system where they watch a lot of videos that they watch that they can sort of do on their own time and pacing as they're doing other things at the facility. And they're recognized. So we mentioned before the bonusly, and how you can give these bonusly points to different people in the moment, like literally 10 seconds, like, hey, you just did an amazing job with that customer. I'm giving you, 100 bonusly points into your account, and then they can go and spend those and buy themselves once they've accumulated enough. And again, it's not a lot. It's not like they're getting millions of dollars. Maybe it lets them get a cup of coffee down at Starbucks, or although a cup of coffee at Starbucks can be like $6 now. But it lets them, they feel recognized, they feel appreciated. So we're creating this environment where they're part of the business. That really, the regional managers aren't there that much, right? They may be running around to 8 or 10 locations, and they're really the face of the business. So we want them engaged, and we find by sharing the business objectives, what the business goals are, giving them full access to the reports and the financials, they become invested. They start, how did that? They start caring about the door got broke. Why did the door get broken? How do we want to fix that? Can I fix that myself, or should we call a vendor that's going to cost $3,000? Is there, they start taking care of it like it's their own house, so to speak, their own property. And those are the values that we're trying to look for in our employees. You make them feel like, if you treat them like kids, they'll act like kids. If you treat them like business owners, and again, it's not perfect, they really don't own the business, but you commission them based on how the business is performing, and they'll act like an owner, which is what we try to achieve.
Love that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Fantastic, guys. Are we really ready for the lightning round?
I think we might be ready
we
for
are-
Yeah, I
Let's
think
do
we
it.
are. Let's do the lightning round, y'all. So lightning round rules are this: you have 15 seconds to share your thoughts. So these are more thoughts than they are questions, right? So we kind of want to hear your hot takes. And if you need to go more than 15 seconds, it's okay. So Melissa and I will take turns throwing a hot topic, and would love to hear your hot take on it. So I'm excited for the first one. Melissa, let's kick it off. I know we just talked about this, but I'm excited to hear detail. So let's go. Lightning round.
First lightning round, value pricing.
Well, I love it. We view it. Look, it's a big part of what we do. We think of it as upgrades. People love upgrades on airplanes. I want to get upgraded to first class. I want to get upgraded to business class. So think of it as an upgrade program. Find a way to offer upgrades. People don't want to be viewed as cheap. Think of the psychology. If you offer good, better, best, most people will pick something in the middle. They don't want to be viewed as cheap. They don't want to buy the most expensive thing. You go to the dinner with your girlfriend or your wife, and you look at the wine menu. You don't know wines. I don't want to be cheap. I'm not picking the cheapest one. Well, I'm not buying that $300 bottle. That's crazy. But you pick something in the middle. Think about that.
Great.
Value pricing. Love it.
Amazing. Drew?
We don't do it yet. It is in our next kind of 6 to 9 months. I think it's a fantastic thing. All the smartest guys in the room are doing it, and we got to do it.
Let's strap in, baby. All right. Competitor analysis. We touched on this earlier. Talk to us about competitor analysis.
We're crazy about it, probably too much. We scrape 90,000 rates a day for every competitor in every size group. StoreTrack is a company in the industry that does a lot of rate scraping. We use that data. We plot it out, looking at what the REITs are doing, your competitors are doing. We look at it probably weekly for every location and try and figure out what people are doing. We think it's not what you're doing, it's what you're missing. Why are they going lower? Why are they going higher? Looking for the missed opportunities.
Amazing.
I like that. Good approach.
Drew, you talked about doing the pen and paper route.
Yep.
And we're about to go into the next iteration of this. So what's competitor analysis mean to you moving forward?
Yeah, well, we do a terrible job at it. I literally have been talking to Veritech and ProRise for 2 weeks. I mean, this is where we're headed. It is so important. And again, this is where the industry's going. And so it almost makes third-party management worth it. If you're too small and you can't afford this rate management, to go with third party, or you got to get big enough where you can afford it, because man, it's going to change everything. It is changing everything.
I love it. These are great answers.
All right, next one, strong branding.
Look,
I feel like I can't answer any of these questions. Adam, go ahead. This is ridiculous.
Look, Look, StorageMart brand is super important to us, right? We're acquiring Manhattan Mini Storage was something new for us. It's hard even having two brands, Manhattan Mini Storage and StorageMart. We think brand's important. We think that's where, having one website where everyone can go to and get that name recognition out there. There are other management companies like Storage Asset Management, very well run company by Alyssa Quill, who I love. They've have 600 locations. If you want to keep your name, there are companies like that. They're not the only one where you can go and keep your name. We think you're losing value in your business by not having a bigger brand name. But some people do, in their local market, does there need to be a Xerox of storage? I don't know, right, Public Storage, CubeSmart, who's going to be the Xerox of storage? I don't know. Some people say it's important, some people not. We think it's important, at least for the properties that we own and manage, to have one website. All the advantage of our Google spend comes from having a single name.
Right.
Yep. I'm not sure people smarter than me tell me, look, the customer cares about brand, the customer doesn't care about brand. I'm not really sure. I do know one thing, that storytelling is important. Your lenders want a brand. Your employees want a brand. They want to know what boat we're on and where we're going. And we don't need 10 different stores and 10 different yada yadas. Okay. So much of our job is storytelling. And a single brand unifies that story and gets people excited. They start nodding their head yes, and that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Whew, that gave me chills, man. I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Golly. No, I saw
brand is about more than just the customers.
Yeah.
I think that's so true.
That's so cool, man. Golly, that's gonna be a great little spotlight later. All right, we've touched on this, but I want to hear the hot take here. Automated versus manned facilities.
Can I go first, Adam? I feel like
Yeah.
I can answer this one.
Take this one, Drew.
All right. Personally speaking, I think it's a bad idea unless you have scale in a region. 4 stores automated 90 to 120 minutes apart, I think is a failed. It's hard to accomplish. What we have found was there's cost savings by not having a manager, but then there's also cost increases like the mattress that gets left out in the rain, and it cost me $250 to hire a special guy to get out there. I now actually have to hire another employee to manage my remote employees. And so we were not seeing a big bottom line savings, and we were seeing a whole lot more headaches. So that's why we moved away from that model.
We hate remote management. We're not fans of it either. We have, people have gotten more expensive, no doubt. We're paying more per hour to hire people. We like doing some things like, in a market where we can share employees, we'll quote, close a store on Tuesdays and the next store on Wednesday and the third store on Thursday. If somebody wants to rent there, they'll contact us. We'll drive over and meet them there and help them. We've even been doing more similar to the Da Vinci locks. We use a different vendor, but there's vendors with a coded lock that we can just email the code to the customer. They can go in the unit. There's a lock waiting, their own lock, disc lock waiting for them in the unit. And, it's something called instant rental. So again, it's sort of like combining the technology to use your phone to check in and rent a unit automated without talking to somebody. But we're not big fans of remote facilities either, even though I know a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are building portfolios. A lot of people are looking at the Jefferson Shrews portfolio that sold to Extra Space for millions of dollars. And some people are trying to duplicate that. Some people are doing kiosks. So we're not fans of it.
It's not for everybody. It's absolutely not. We do a lot of remote in my company, but it works better in some areas than it does in others. I sat in a session that Bob Copper did in Florida a couple months ago, and one thing that he said was, and with Copper Storage, they do all remote, right? And he said, this is absolutely not for everybody, because if you are the owner that will flip out because there's a mattress propped against the building for more than 24 hours, this is not for you. Or if you are the owner that says, this hallway has no cart. Why is there no cart in this hallway? There's 2 over here. This needs to be fixed. This is not for you. Remote management there's a different approach. There's a different kind of mindset behind it. So it's
Yep.
definitely not for everybody.
And look, and there's technology out there making it easier, more interesting, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
a camera system from OpenTech where there's like a speaker and intercom, and if the camera sees something, there's more for security, but you can also use it during the day for operations. Like you can talk to somebody, sort of like your Ring doorbell cameras that a lot of people
Right.
have now, where you can communicate remotely and not actually be at the facility. So there's, it continues to evolve and change. We're keeping an eye on it, but we're cautious about it.
Amazing.
We're slowing down our lightning round, I think.
I know. We got to get to it. All right. We'll skip the next ones. I think we touched on it a lot during this session. So Melissa, talk about the next one here.
Digital marketing versus physical marketing.
We think digital marketing is everything. It's in Manhattan, yes, we have a lot billboards because we just have a lot of billboards, and Manhattan Mini Storage has been known for cheeky marketing, really because we had the real estate on the buildings for 50 years. So we've taken advantage of that. But the majority of the business, it's all about your digital footprint, your Google My Business on the maps. That's where we spend 95, 98% of our money. And that's where we think everyone else should be spending it. That's where all our leads are coming from.
I have nothing left to add. That was perfect.
As bad as it, honestly, that is about as good as it gets. All right, last lightning round. What's your secret weapon?
Ooh, I'll do this one. People. Man, real estate does not run itself. People run real estate. And that's where a lot of my time is spent thinking about that. And if we can get that right, everything else will fall into place.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I agree also. It's about the people. We think of it as like the customer experience, what that looks like, whether they touch your website, whether they walk into the facility, getting them through the rental process. What experience are they having? And your people are as big of a part as any of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Y'all, what an incredible conversation, man. And I love that that's how we end, is like, it's about the people, right? Like it's the people involved that actually makes all of this work.
Do you want me to try and hit some of these Q&As there?
Yeah.
Go
Do
for
y'all
it.
have time? I know we're right over the finish line here, but that'd be awesome.
I'll try and hit these real quick, and I'll let Drew kind of add on to the first one, since the question is, they have a facility with 106 units and about to open. How do you want to rent them the quickest way? I think there's two strategies. We argue about it all the time. You can go super cheap, get the people in the door, fill the rooms up, and then raise them with existing customer rate increases as soon as you can. The other option, some people would say, is keep your pricing high, same with your competitors, and fill the facility at higher prices. I don't know the right answer. I've seen it done both ways. We've done it both ways. But I don't know. What would you say, Drew, best way for Tiffany to fill that facility?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. We're doing 2 lease ups right now. We're having those same conversations. There's, people would say higher paying customers on auto pay are less price sensitive and going to be better long-term customers. So I think it's just a trade-off in your mind. What's kind of your risk tolerance? Do you just want to get some more bodies in there knowing that they could be gone in 6 or 7 months? Or do you kind of want to wait it out for higher prices?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that.
This next question on portable storage.
Yeah, are y'all experimenting with those mobile?
We hate it. We think it's a terrible idea. We tell everyone, if people they want us to third party manage a portable storage facility, we say no. We don't think, you're not building value on the land. They're going to rust. They're going to leak over time. Even if you had the perfect portable storage unit, you're not adding value to land. You got to add a building, a business, a structure. So we are not fans of it, although it is a cheap way for people to get into business, and we're seeing it done in a lot of places. Can you have some portable storage, like on a piece of land in the back or a corner that you can't use? Yeah, maybe you do some of it there, but I wouldn't build a whole facility on portable storage.
Wow. There you
Yeah,
have it.
we don't have any portable storage, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but it would be a very, very small piece of a store.
Yeah. Melissa, are y'all experimenting with those portable units?
So we acquired a couple properties that already had portable storage. So I've got some that are built by Boxwood. I've got some that are built by Tracty. We've got some that are like a local Amish group that built them are really cool. We've added them in places, like you guys said, in the weird areas of the property that like would be hard to do new construction. And it's worked, but we have also experienced problems with them on certain properties. If that foundation is not good, you can have issues. If they get tilted the least little bit, they're going to leak. It's so there's some cons to it as well. So you really got to make sure that they're set well, if you're going to go that direction.
There you go.
So.
So, Chris, good question. Devin asked, if not DaVinci, what brand are you using, Adam? Is it super secret?
No, it's not super secret. I don't know the brand actually offhand, but like DaVinci, every lock is uniquely coded with its own code. And we're still in this experimentation stage. So this is a good example. Like maybe down the road, we'll go to a DaVinci system where every lock's uniquely coded. We actually, like at the facilities where we're testing our instant move-ins now, we use every lock's coded the same. So it's a lock where you can set the combination, but they're all the same. We're even experimenting with when a customer goes in, you talk about upgrades. We find customers may open up 3 or 4 units and then pick the unit that they think is best. Or maybe they're moving in and they find they need a bigger unit. Again, I don't know if this is the right way to go. I think people were worried about security at one point and not letting them move into a unit that they didn't have a lease signed for. You know, we clean that up after the fact if they move into a unit that's different than what their lease is signed. So that's a critical part of the process that we know we can handle. That may not be for everybody. I don't have it, but I'll send an email to Devin and I'll get that information. It's nothing fancy. It's a simpler product that we decided to start with before we moved to something a little more expensive.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chateau used to have a word lock, and that was actually made by the company Word Lock, and they shut down after COVID. Supply Side has a number combo lock option.
And I know we buy almost all we still use Chateau a little bit. We used to use them at Manhattan Mini, but we pretty much use Supply Side exclusively now. So we're probably just buying it from them.
There you go. Drew, are you experimenting with any kind of cool locks or?
No, we're pretty keep it simple. We had to overlock a bunch of units that was remote managed because of theft and trash dumping. So that's the only experiment I have with, lots of locks.
Well, there you have it. Yeah. So DaVinci locks, probably the leading. They were one of the first, and then Spider Door recently launched some locks that are programmable as well. Kind of like you get a custom code to get in. So lots of use cases there. Great question, Devin. Yeah. Grace Toddy, good question here. On average, how much are you spending per property on digital marketing?
Well, it'd be interesting to see what Drew's answer is. I mean, we're spending across the country millions and millions of dollars. It's pretty overwhelming. Almost all of it on Google paid search, but $30,000 to $50,000 per facility isn't out of the question. And again, it depends on the size of the facility, what market you're in.
Just gave Drew a heart attack.
Yeah, I know Drew's just passed out. We'll have to revive him. But it really depends on the market, right? In some markets where we just are one facility or really small, we're spending a lot less than that. So it can really vary, but on average, that's what we're spending on average.
Yeah, that's scale is important, and scale is really helpful for that. We spend next to nothing. I mean, we have a great website company, and we have Google, and we're experimenting with some Google words and things like that, especially in our lease up stores. But, I don't think we've had to have it. And again, we're not in the New Yorks and LAs. We're in very small and sophisticated markets, and it's worked for us.
Right. Where a good website just stands out on its own.
Yeah, a website in general. Yeah. We had a store that didn't have a website. Like, oh, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Wow. And then Allison, question from her, what specials do you find work best to attract new customers?
Well, we try to avoid the dollar move in. Right. Public storage has obviously set that standard across the industry. We try and do discounts that are upfront, not long term, which is a different strategy. I mean, at Mini Storage, we used to do agree to stay for 6 months and we'll give you 20% off for those 6 months, right? If people could move out before that time. So from a simplicity point of view, we give an upfront discount, 50% off the first month or X% off for 2 months. We try and keep it fairly straightforward. It's not particularly sophisticated in that respect.
Again, I think pricing and price management is something that we have our eye on over the next year or two, as we don't have a lot of acquisitions in the pipeline. Variable pricing, discount pricing, this is all something that we're going to try to focus on, but we don't currently do any of it.
Well, there you have it. All right, y'all. So I do have, thank you audience for getting those questions, and thank you speakers for dropping some knowledge. So I do have one last question of the week, and it is, what is the most overlooked piece of the storage business that, you know, is so easy to skip out on when you're evaluating you know, how successful storage business is? So Drew, we'll start with you. Since
Okay.
you've done a lot of evaluating lately. What are some of the most overlooked areas when you're evaluating your storage business?
You know, I still just think there's so much low hanging fruit in what we've been talking about, this whole rent management side of the business, variable pricing. You know, if we think about it like an airplane, seats at the front cost more than seats at the back. Nobody wants to sit by the bathroom where you can't recline your seat, but some people don't mind that. And so I think thinking about your product differently will allow you to drive revenue over the long run. And that's where, again, I'm continuing to spend my time on that one topic.
I love it. Adam, same to you. What are some easy, I mean, especially at 300 plus locations, what are some areas that are just so easy to miss or skip or not see?
Well, we have found, I mean, even the most basic things you can get away from, like we, got away from Google reviews for a little while, and we didn't have as many reviews. That's something that we're back on. We think that's feeding into the algorithms even more than ever, like on Google Maps and things like that, right? It's more of like a mindset is where I would sort of answer this question. Like, things that you did well, right? You tackled something a year ago and you made it better, you got better, and that's great. It's easy to forget about it and move on to the 100 other things that are in front of you. And it's just important every now and then, take a deep breath, go back to the things that you were doing well. And like as you don't talk about things or don't look at things over time, they tend to degrade a little bit, and go back, revisit them, look at that process, make it better. This mindset of trying different things, making it better. It's okay to make mistakes. Remember, you screw something up, don't worry about it. It's a learning experience. Don't beat up the employee, and make it better for next time. And that's really the mindset. Don't get complacent. There's always room to find a little more, try something new, try something different.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Melissa,
that was awesome.
I'm gonna ask you the same question. Like, as y'all have grown from 0 to 30 plus locations, and is it 4 or 5 states now?
We're in 3 right now.
3 states.
I think probably one of the most overlooked areas that we have even experienced is just in procedure, and making sure that the procedure that you have in place is scalable for growth, and that it's actually well documented, and so that everybody can stay on the same page. And I think I'm sure, Drew, you've probably run into that. You're nodding your head, like, especially in those first couple of years of really rapid growth. It's like, how do I get my team on the same page? And then as things grow and change and we have to alter, is everybody growing and changing and altering throughout the company at the same rate and doing the same thing? And so procedure, I think, is one of those things that you have to constantly revisit. You can't just say, oh, we made that policy and set it on a shelf and never touch it again. It has to constantly be looked at. So, and it gets forgotten easily.
I love that. Yeah, you create something and then it becomes dusty and old, and then you forget about it.
And procedure has to live. It has to grow and breathe.
Yep.
And
Yeah. And I know the one tip I'll share is related to, that reservation stat that was kind of shocking for me. It was like 27%, only 27% was being converted to a lease, right? And that is like, look at your leaky bucket. Look at your bucket and see how many leaks you have, right? Like this idea of, let's say we're spending $30,000-$40,000 in Google Ads dollars every year at a facility, but like, that's cool to get eyeballs and leads, but like, how many of those are actually being converted to real customers, right? And so a lot of times the problem when people have occupancy issues or release up issues is, I want to get more traffic. I want to get more eyeballs. I want to get more visitors. But like, maybe you have enough visitors. Maybe you're not answering your phone when people are calling. Maybe you're not calling people back when they leave you a voicemail. Maybe when they submit a reservation form on your website, you're not following up, right? And so oftentimes patching the leaky bucket is more effective than adding more water through the bucket. So that would be my one tip as I'm, auditing a lot of these operators, because 2023 looks a little different. Drew, during pre-talk or the pre-show, we talked a little bit about how the real operators that are excellent at operations are going to really stand out in the next 2 or 3 years. And that's one of the ways, is to tighten your belt and make sure that you're following your procedures. Yeah. So our lovely speakers, what's the best way for people to find you? Adam, how do people find you if they have more questions or they want to learn more about StorageMart and your third-party management systems? Talk to us.
The best way is just go to our website, storage-mart.com. If you go to storagemart.com, you'll end up on some strange Korean website that we've been trying to buy forever, but go to storage-mart.com. Yep, true story. You can go down to the third-party management site. You can get my address there. It's just adam.steckler@storage-mart. So please even just send me an email. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I love meeting new people.
StorageMart.com just got tons of visitors, just so we could all go check it out and see what this looks like. So they're going to have a spiked web views. So.
Yeah, so share this data point with your e-commerce director.
Yeah, well, we're going to have low conversion rate today.
There you go. We're wrecking your conversion rate
on
April 27th. And then Devin, by the way, I shot an email, so you've been formally introduced to Adam. And then Drew, how do people find you, my friend, in case they sell their facility to you, or
that's right.
want to learn about what you're doing down there?
Man, you can email me at drew@pearsonpartnerspe.com. I've got a little podcast, The Pearson Perspective, if you're interested in hearing folks that we've chatted to. And shoot me an email. I'd love to chat with you, answer any questions. Like Adam, I love to talk to people and meet new people in the business.
Amazing. Well, Drew, Adam, thank you for gracing the Gabfocus stage and having a good time with us. Melissa, always a pleasure.
Yep,
to see
this
your
has been
face.
great.
I missed you last month. Glad to have you back. But we do have something very juicy coming up. So, of course, join us on our Gabfocus Facebook page. Lots of good conversations happening there. All the past sessions on video are available at storagepug.com/resources. And, of course, the official podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then up next is May 25th, a storage tech summit. I'm really stoked about this one. We're inviting Chuck Gordon from Storable to come on and grace the Gabfocus stage. And Storable, as big as they've become, they are a leading tech player in our industry, and they have a lot of a lot of perspective, and a lot of what they do impacts how we operate as an industry. So we're going to bring Chuck, and we're going to bring a fellow co-panelist to be determined, and it's going to be a good show. So go ahead and bookmark this, May 25th. We'll start at 2:00 Eastern for the live show. And of course, come out to Lobby Talk, the show before the show. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today and sticking through to the end. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
See you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.